There are a lot of mistakes that people make in sales or when engaging in a social interaction in general. And I think that this is the number one mistake that you should not make and you should avoid at all costs. Hi everyone, my name is Kian. I run a company focusing on corporate training, on business consulting, and on player engagement. We have worked with more than 10 multinational companies and more than 2,500 employees across 15 different countries. And this mistake that I'm about to share is what I believe to be the number one sales mistake. Now, this mistake has been presented by Leah Lowndes in her book, How to Talk to Anyone. And she presents this mistake using this phrase that big shots do not slobber over stars. And what she means by that is that when you meet someone that you perceive to be important or that you perceive to be of a high social status, or maybe this person could make or break the deal that you're trying to convert, you should not be a suck-up. You don't want to go to that person, praise them overly, shower them with compliments, and present yourself as someone who is obsequious or servile. So don't be a suck-up. And when you make that mistake of being a suck-up, what happens is that you present yourself as someone who is of a low social status because you're someone who is low. That is why you need to suck up to someone who is presumably of a higher social status. And that's a big mistake. You may think that you're doing the person you're speaking to a favor because you're showering them with compliments, but what you're doing is that you're presenting yourself as overly desperate and needy and therefore of a low social status. And you don't want to do that. Now, human beings and social status are tightly knit. We have a fundamental need for social status, which means that we like people of our high social status. And what that implies is that we dislike people of a low social status. And we do not like to associate ourselves with them. Because if you associate yourself as someone who is desperate and overly obsequious and therefore not very genuine, then the likelihood is that you will be perceived as that way. And people, especially those of a higher social status, they want to stay away from people like that as much as they can. Based on my observation working with people who have made such a sales mistake, they're also likely to not be very nice to anyone who is not the big shot or the star that they're working with. To speak in more layman parlance so that you can better understand me, let's say they're trying to suck up to a director. Because the director is presumably their target, they are then not very nice and friendly to perhaps the executives who are below the directors. And that is a bad idea. I believe the author also talks about it in the book, How to Speak to Anyone, where someone makes the mistake of not being nice to the wife of their client. Now, the wife, of course, in that situation, is not the decision maker. But her impression of you is really important because she can influence the decision of her husband. By the same token, the executives below the director, they're not the decision makers, but their impression of you matters. Because if they dislike you, they're not going to leave a lot of compliments for you in front of their boss. That is the director, which means they're highly influential. If they dislike you, the likelihood is that the director also won't move on to like you or give you an opportunity to work with them. So the mistake again is you don't want to slobber over big shots or over the people that you're trying to target. What you want to do instead is you want to be calm and be genuine. So you want to treat everyone the same, and the baseline same should be genuine, friendly, generous, productive. Present yourself as someone who is not needy. You're someone who is steady, who's confident, competent, warm to everybody else. And I think when you do that, you attract the type of people who believe that you would be of a high social status because you're someone who is genuine. And people like to work with cooperators who are genuine. And when you do that, I think that the likelihood of you building a reputation that's positive would be higher. And again, big shots do not slobber over stars. You don't want to present yourself as of a low social status. And even when you're dealing with people who are not decision makers or in business terms don't matter to you, you want to make sure that you're warm and nice to them because at the end of the day, they might be influential, even though they're not the ones making the decisions. I hope you learned something new from this video. If you have, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.